Welcome back to the Casey Adams Show. Today I am joined by the one and only John Shahidi from Full Send, Happy Dad, Nelk Boys, and many, many more. John, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, good. Thanks for coming here.
Of course. Thanks so much for having us here. You know, I walked into the office and it's so cool to see, you know, everyone sees you guys on YouTube on the cameras, but to really see the HQ and you know, everyone doing their thing, it's super cool. So happy to be here.
Yeah.
I guess to jump into it, man, like Full Send, Happy Dad, you guys have built and you've built incredible brands over the years. You know, where do you spend your time day to day now? I know you guys are, you know, scaling Happy Dad like crazy. I see it everywhere. So congrats on that. But where do you spend your time and what does your day typically look like?
Happy Dad takes a lot of time right now because it's such a growing business, and we're hiring so many people in the 16 states that we're in. So we're actually bringing in a staff into each, building a team in specific every market. And, you know, earlier this year, the focus was actually bringing him into states, but now we've broken up the states based off markets, and we're creating different, like we're hiring from regional managers to area sales managers. We have a great distributor in every single state, so we've been lucky there. And, you know, now it's like local marketing teams. So Happy Dad's been taking up a lot of time. You know, obviously Full Send and everything that comes with Full Send takes a lot of time, from the production, which we've got, I want to say probably the best team I've ever worked with in the 11 or so years I've been doing YouTube. So the production runs itself from Nelk channel, Salim's channel, the Full Send podcast. Steve will do its channel, which obviously got, you know, many know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got taken down by YouTube. But, you know, he's still creating content. He's going to be on rumble.com pretty soon here. So he's doing that as well.
Yep. I saw that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, you know, so then you have the team, but the team, you know, we've got like I said, a state-of-the-art team when it comes to production there. So with Full Send comes merch, with Full Send comes NFT. With Full Send comes supplements now. Yeah,
you guys have it all. And, you know, it didn't start there. I'd love to kind of take it back. You know, the origin story, I remember listening on the Money Buys Happiness podcast, just hearing how you and Kyle met and how organic it was. Mm-hmm. Like when you guys met and now seeing where you are today, like was the vision to go build all these different sub brands within it? And I know Happy Dad was like the initial, you know, combo based on what you said in the podcast, but I'd love to talk about your relationship with Kyle and how you guys have grown over the years and really the mentality it's taken to reach this point, because you guys aren't just a, you know, typical brand. You guys have impacted culture in my opinion, in such a unique way that is very, very rare. And I think that helping people understand that is just, there's so much gold in that. So when you guys met, you know, what were some of those early conversations that you guys were having when you were first getting involved with the brand, the boys, and, you know, the whole Nelk Boys team?
When we first met, we talked about exactly what we're doing right now. You know, his vision was always, you know, build brands, build products, which is even before I joined Full Send Nelk a little over 2 years ago now. It's always, I always believed in that too. I forgot what podcast it was, but I know I said it on Impulsive, but even before that, I said something where, you know, creators are the future of consumer goods products, and a creator shouldn't, you know, I mean, obviously you've got to do these brand deals to pay the bills and monetize the different platforms you're on, but you know, that's all short-term money. The long-term money builds in, you know, it comes in building this.
Yep.
And, you know, our earlier conversations, and Kyle saw that from day one. Like, he's very, like, anti-brands. And and it's not because he hates brands. And, you know, he's not, you know, fuck this company, fuck that. You curse on here?
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, it's more like he just knows what he's building and what he's built over the last 10 years is very long-term. And he knows it's taken him a little over 10 now. I think, you know, Nelk is about 11 years old now, and he knows he's going to be here for another 10 years. So he's not like really chasing that short-term check, which is something that I've always preached that creators should not be doing. Every creator is their own platform. You know, a Instagrammer with 5 million followers or 500,000 followers, or a YouTuber with 1 million subs or 100,000 subs. It's their own platform, and they've got a platform and they could create. They just have to figure out what it is exactly for the audience.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like you guys have done that not only super well, but perfectly in a sense where, prior to launching the alcohol, like Happy Dad, it fits the brand of what they were doing. It made so much sense. So I'm sure that speaks to the success of it. But what's your feedback when you're talking to creators? Maybe that you don't work with them directly, but finding that right product, because there's so many paths you could go down in terms of finding that direct to consumer product. Yep. And you guys, it made so much sense. But what's your advice and feedback to creators that don't know maybe where to go and they're relying on that, quick money brand deal type of lifestyle?
Well, if they don't know the answer, then they don't really know their audience. Kyle has talked about a lot of different businesses he's wanted to build underneath the Full Send, Happy Dad, Nelk empire, but never has he once said like, let's do a fragrance for women. Even though that's like a trendy thing right now, fragrance and makeup and beauty and all that stuff. It's like, and you see YouTubers, but it's like he doesn't follow the trend. He knows that would never work here with this audience. And one could argue, well, a lot of male, one could try to argue with him. It's like, hey, a lot of male followers, they all, have girlfriends, wives, sisters, moms, but still, it's like, no, you're not going to get the biggest bang for the buck. So I think you just, to create a product, Mr. Beast is a good example, really creating products that cater towards his audience, which is, obviously under 18 years old. Yep. When I think of myself at the age of being a Mr. Beast fan, like I probably would have been like 9, 10, 11 years old. McDonald's was my favorite place. That's all I ever wanted was go to McDonald's. That's what I was rewarded. If I was good, I got to go to McDonald's. Now, a 10, 11, 12-year-old is probably being rewarded and you get to go to Mr. Beast Burgers now. So, and then you end up growing up with that brand and, and there's that nostalgia feeling you get as an adult that, I'll always love McDonald's, not because the food is great, but it's because it just reminds me of my childhood. Yeah, the brand loyalty's there, and it just kind of like triggers happy feelings inside me. Coca-Cola's the same thing. Disney's the same thing, but Mr. Beast understands his audience. He didn't go make an alcohol. He didn't go make a, something that would cater towards a 25 or 30-year-old.
Yep.
And that's why and that's why he's crushing it with,
totally.
with Mr. Beast Burgers, with his chocolate.
Yep. No, I think I saw a podcast he was recently on as well, just talking about the empire he's built. It's so cool to see. Speaking about knowing your audience, I know you launched the Full Send podcast, just over a year ago?
Yeah.
We'll crack one of these open.
Yeah.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. I think it was first week of August of 2021.
Wow. So just over a year ago.
Yeah. Actually, the Elon episode that just aired this August was released on the 1-year anniversary of it. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't make a bigger deal of it, but if people go back, it was actually like on the 1-year anniversary. Wow. It was kind of my gift to the team. So
quite the gift. Well, cheers to that, man. Having Elon on the show, I think just the way you guys had him on the show as well, and just take a step back. I've had my show for 5 years. I've actually had Elon's mom, May Musk, and his sister, Toska, on the show. Super cool. And just hearing him sit there with you guys for multiple hours on end, talking about SpaceX and all the different companies in between, and also just having like a man-to-man convo. It was so cool to see that rather than just it being a one-on-one, but in a group setting. And I remember you talking about how you had to get him on the show, but I wanted to ask you, coming out of that podcast, knowing not only the significance of what he's done and the impact it will have on the community and when people see it, what was the after effect of that, right? He's tweeting about it. How does the team feel? How do you react to that? And how do you, think about moments in which you're having someone like Elon on the show from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, and just for the podcast in general?
Well, it's been little over 2 months now since the episode went live, and there's not a day it's not talked about here. One way or another, the Elon episode. Granted, I stay in touch with Elon. I talk to Elon.
Yeah, I saw what you guys are on Twitter. Saw that.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of different things. I guess I could talk about it here, but I guess a Fortune article came out listing people he's been in touch with on the Twitter thing, and my name is on there. But yeah, we could talk about that. I mean, honestly, I don't care. You know, we could talk about it, but we talk about a lot of different things. But the Elon podcast episode, has not been a single day since it went live where it's not brought up in this office somehow, some way. It was just such a magical episode. Yeah, you know, it was 3 hours with him, and
I'd love for you to talk, because I know I heard it on a podcast where you spoke about it, but people that may not know, like how that happened, right? Like I remember him saying, like he texted you guys were back and forth, and then he was in, the town. Where were you guys?
Austin.
He was in Austin, and like talk to me about that moment where he was coming in. How was the team reacting? Was everyone prepared? Like what's the excitement like internally? Because everyone sees beyond the camera, maybe before, but being not only the president of the company, but just understanding how big of a moment this is for the team, also the audience, it must have been such a surreal moment.
It was. I mean, it was. We got into Austin. It was kind of this little bit of a mindfuck too, because when we landed in Austin to go meet up with Elon, we didn't have Wi-Fi on the plane, and when we landed, it was like a 3-hour flight or so, and I had 2 texts, one from Elon confirming and giving me an address of where he wanted to do it, and then I had another another text from YouTube telling me Steve's channel was permanently deleted. So I'm landing, I'm like, fuck. Like
2 extremes.
And Kyle's looking at me. We were on the flight together. He's like, "You good? Like, what happened?" I was like, "Well, Elon's good, but Steve's channel's gone." I said, "What do you mean? Like, we couldn't even it was too extreme." So, it was just this, And then Steve had landed in I forgot where he was. He was somewhere in South America, and he had landed to do the Elon. We were gonna have Steve on the episode with us because he loves Elon Musk, and he was just so bummed. He was like, "Dude, I can't, I don't want to ruin the episode." He didn't even want to come in on it. Like, he was just so devastated by YouTube. I mean, all those years of work, and it was just,
So what was the core reason why his account got taken down? And do you think it could have been prevented?
The core reason we actually weren't really given a real reason. I had to dig into it more, and there was some gambling site that he's partners with that he was promoting on there. But even though he was legally promoting it, because it's an offshore, one of those offshore gambling sites, but he's never been on that site in the U.S. He always traveled. That's why he was in South America. Excuse me. So that was the reason they gave us. I don't know if that was necessarily the core. I don't know what it was. It could be anything, obviously.
It's
but,
just devastating. It's like, come on.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, someone could. You just don't. You don't know. That's the problem. You don't know what the real reason is. I mean, it could have been someone there just maybe didn't like his humor. I don't know. Steve is very, very out there. But there's people out there that are a lot crazier than Steve, when it comes to
the content.
Dark humor. I mean, at the end of the day, it's dark humor. Steve means well. Steve is one of the nicest, kindest people. The guy will never hurt anything or anyone's feelings. Will never do anything malicious or bad to anybody. He's just, he's got that. I mean, he's got that comedy inside him, and and sometimes, I mean, Dave Chappelle says some dark stuff. Tim Dillon says some dark stuff. Andrew Schultz says some dark stuff. When I'm talking about comedy, it's sometimes they say those shocking things that you're like, what the fuck did you really just say that? And that's what Steve does too. Yeah. He just delivers comedy differently than a stand-up comedian, but he's got that same gene as them.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of pivot the conversation about Full Send and the company right now, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this show, watch this show. When you think about building team culture, hiring, you guys have you walk in here, it feels like there's a family here. It feels a sense of togetherness. How have you gone about building culture within Full Send, attracting the right talent, and just, building with the family that you do have? Because not only is it efficient, but it seems to be working, right?
Yeah. We have like this kind of this unwritten rule here, and it's a rule that I've always kind of tried to live my life by, and my brother Sam as well, and Kyle as well, and Steve as well. Is I think, in the last year, only maybe less than 5 people have been let go of any of our companies, Full Send, Nelk, Happy Dad, or even Shot Studios. And it's really been no reason other than attitude. We have like this no negativity attitude here, and I think that's the only thing that will get you there. If you're not performing well, we'll sit down with you, and we'll sit down with you 20 or 30 times until you do well. Or we'll move your position into something that you do fit better. But if you come in here and start, being negative for whatever reason, and people have their bad days, but if that attitude doesn't change over a few months, you're gone. And I think that's why you feel the energy that you feel here, and it's that family energy. It's like everyone's happy, everyone, it's got a smile on their face. Everyone just loves working here because we have that kind of that no negativity attitude here.
Yeah, no, I feel it right when you walk in, and just how you guys move, and how, at least from a social perspective as well, it's same thing. But when you think about the future of Full Send, Happy Dad, like, where does this go, right? In 10 years, where do you want Full Send to be? Happy Dad, Nelk Boys, how do you see them evolving? And just what's your mindset, or what would you like to share with the audience in terms of the future of the entire empire that you guys have built? Because it's not slowing down.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an ecosystem that we're building. So right now we're really focused on the existing pieces to that ecosystem. Down the road, maybe there'll be new things that are added to empower the ecosystem. But right now we're very focused on what's there to build that ecosystem. And the podcast, to the website, to the social channels, to the products, they all kind of feed the core of the company. So, everything's so new, and 2022 was like the first real year post COVID. So, because all this is new, like all this really developed during COVID. So, even though like my life before this and Kyle's life before this was always YouTube. So like, these two worlds of YouTube collided during COVID, but everything that we're building around this has been, post COVID. So I think this is like a first real year without it. And so we've been really busy building what's currently on our plate. But, there's always ideas, that we kind of just say, okay, yeah, we'll do that, but let's visit that. I mean, there's been stuff that we've said, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that in 2024.
Yeah.
We're thinking that way, and we just kind of plant the seeds, just like the seeds of the alcohol business was planted many years ago, but both by my brother before we met Kyle, and Kyle himself. So we had planted this seed before, and my seed was built when I was building the whole YouTube network and everything I was doing with YouTube. And Kyle's same thing with building YouTube. And then, and I had, maybe 15 years ago, so I had an alcohol brand that was an 8+ product. It's just, it was pre-social media and everything. So I didn't have kind of the weapons that I have now to help grow a product.
I'd love to dive into that. Like working with your brother, Shots, like getting into this whole world of entrepreneurship and business. Where did that journey start? Because I know you've worked with, over the years, Justin Bieber, Floyd Mayweather, and you've done a lot of that early development with them in terms of the YouTube stuff, and really more so like a pioneer of the whole space in general. Where does your entrepreneurial roots come from with your brother? I'd love to hear about working alongside him, and just how you got into this whole world of business, and why, most importantly.
Yeah. Well, my brother and I, we work really well because, I'm a very, I'm a thinker. Like I'm always thinking of what's the next chess move, and he loves to physically do things. So he'll go and physically move that chess piece, and that's kind of how we work. And while he's moving that chess piece, I'm thinking what the next chess move is. So we're very, very great at that. Sometimes when you're playing chess, you probably need some assistance and someone to whisper in your ear. And he's very good at that as well because he's moved so many chess pieces for me. So my brother and I, we work really great when it comes in that aspect. We see eye to eye all the time on what we're doing.
Great.
Long term, right? Short term stuff, like I said, we're brothers, so we bicker a lot. But long term, we think very, very eye to eye. It's almost like if he's got a really big idea, or if I've got a really big idea, like it really takes like 2 seconds of him explaining the idea where I get it right away, and vice versa. So
no, that's really cool. Speaking of tech, I know you had a background in tech. You've had some apps. I'd love to hear your current thoughts on that because, for context, I have a tech company called Media Kits. I just sold it to a company in Toronto called Viral Nation, big talent agency, just big influence marketing company. So we're going through this phase of integrating the product and really getting the tech integrated with their whole ecosystem. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the same way you think about influencers launching direct-to-consumer brands, like physical products. Is there opportunities for creators to launch tech platforms? You've seen it done over and over again. I'd love to hear about your guys' thoughts on that, right? Like Kyle and Full Send, there's such a big audience. Like, would you guys ever launch your own social platform or something in the realm of a tech play? Because, everything you guys touch there's so much opportunity in many verticals. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and, just where you see that going with creators overall.
We think about it a lot. It's something that's brought up all the time. Because we've got such a powerful audience, and then I've got the experience of building a tech platform before that I did in 2013 with Justin Bieber. It's not as easy as people think. People will think, well, you've got this huge audience of 10 million people, get them over, and even if you got 20% of them, that's 2 million, and they go tell, 1 or 2 people each. Now you're talking like 6 million. It's not that easy because one is no one wants to sign up. No one wants another app. People just don't want more apps on their phones. And then they got to think, the iPhone's been around for over a decade. So, there's a lot of behavior that's already been established, and people have got to think of going to you now. So why are they going to you? Why, what's the community? What's so special about the community that you've built that's not available on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or Snapchat? So what makes that so special? And I don't know if we've got that answer quite yet.
Yeah.
So that's one. You see a lot of these new platforms coming out right now, including Rumble and
Steve's working with, right?
Yeah. Rumble's a little bit different because they're publicly traded, so they've got a lot of money to go and acquire content as well. And they're the only solution for now to YouTube. So, for those who are fed up or have been blocked from YouTube, they have nowhere else to go but Rumble. But in addition to that, they do have a lot of money to go and acquire content. And their CEO, he knows good content when he sees it as well. He was talking to us about Rumble way before Steve was
that's awesome.
Taking off YouTube. Like, he just knew Nelk. It was probably maybe over, I think, early 2021 is when I started talking to Chris. And, they have a CEO that just has an eye for proper content and talent. So Rumble's a little bit different, but some of these other ones, it's kind of gets hard because, I've said this before too, is I feel like, when you have when you have a platform that's so one-sided, I think people get bored. I think people want to argue online. I think the left wants to argue with the right. Like, I think they like that. I think, people just want to go after, they don't want a place where everyone agrees with you.
Yeah.
I think that's sad to say, but I think that gets boring for people. So I think that's where also gets a little bit difficult too, is like, if you make a platform where everyone's got the same thing in common,
Everyone's aligned.
Yeah, I think
no controversy.
Yeah, I think people will get a little bored, and they're like, all right, let me go see where where all the real noise is.
Totally. I think controversy is currency, right? That attention is one thing. I'd love to hear like Shots Studios. I know you guys have a podcast network.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about the podcasting space? I know you have the Pivot and a handful of shows, and that's a separate vertical that you guys are just absolutely dominating. How do you think about podcasting? How's it changed over the years, and where do you see it going as a content form, and where's the opportunity there right now?
I think podcasts are going to be like consumer good products. I think every creator is going to have one. I think everyone's going to have one. I think it's its own platform. Podcasting is. I think, when I say platform, it's, it doesn't matter where it goes. If you want to focus on Spotify, you focus on Spotify. You focus on YouTube, focus on YouTube. But I do think everyone is going to have their own eventually. Some people are going to be late to the game. Like people were, a lot of these movie actors and actresses were to social media. A lot of athletes were, but I think everyone's going to have one. And then eventually everyone's going to have their own podcast network. I think at least the big ones will have their own network.
You're saying different creators will have their own network with, what does that look like? With people in their life, with people that they associate with, and they can kind of build a network around certain topics? Or what do you mean by that? Like, how would I, let's say for me, because I've thought about this many times, of like, how I want to go start a podcast network. Like, what does that look like? Where do I focus? But I'd love to hear that from you.
Well, there's probably a lot of young people who look up to you, right? And they don't know where to go.
Yep.
And you could guide them, and you might be even interested in helping them because they remind you of you. And you could bring them underneath your network. You could have them on your show, have them talk about what their new podcast is. You could go on their show.
Yep.
People look up Casey Adams all the time. So, they could go and start searching, and they discover you. And that's why I love YouTube. It's so easy to find, to discover people. And so people, I think that, then you go on their show, vice versa. And then now you've helped grow this one that had zero idea, reach out to you and didn't know what they were doing, needed your help. You're seeing that right now obviously you see that with us, Shot Studios. Absolutely. And Full Send. You'll see that LeBron James is doing that with things called Uninterrupted. Kevin Durant's got his own network as well.
Yep.
I think you're going to see a lot more people building that and building podcast networks because it's, at the end of the day, it's a media company. Yeah.
Production company, media company, all the above.
Mm-hmm.
Where's an industry that you haven't necessarily launched something in that you're interested about, right? Like, is there a space that you have always been itching to step into, and why you haven't maybe?
That I haven't stepped into. I would say currently that I am into right now is that people don't see it, but it's something I'm very passionate about and I like to do more, is just health and wellness in general. From physical health to mental health. We try our best to make sure our content is, as positive as possible.
Yep. Totally.
That's why we don't really bash. If you watch our podcast, although like people, when they think of Nelk, they associate Nelk with controversy, but if you notice, like, we don't bash people. We don't,
totally
go after people. People go after us all the time, left and right,
Yeah.
No matter, all directions people want to come after us, but we don't really necessarily attack back. So I think, that's one. I think also, with our products, we try to be as health conscious as possible. We could have had a super sugary alcohol if we wanted to, but, we kept Happy Dad simple. Can't say for regulatory reasons that it's healthy. I'm not saying it's healthy whatsoever. It's still alcohol.
Yep.
You got to drink responsibly, and you have to be over 21. But it's it could have gone after a really sugary drink. Absolutely. Or something with super high alcohol that got you fucked up right away. But and then our supplement lines. I think one day when we talk about this all the time, we'll probably build gyms, so Full Send gym branded gyms.
Very cool.
So I think health and wellness, I think people need it. I think that's one thing post COVID we've learned is to get healthy. You know,
Yeah.
I think that was the ultimate cure, was being
Absolutely.
healthy. And you know, and on top of that, I think people want it too. You know, people want to like look good on social media. And I think there's only two ways to look good on social media. You either get healthy, get in shape, or add 15 filters to your picture. You know, like that's the only two ways you're going to look good on social media.
That's an interesting concept. So full send gyms. I know you guys, Bradley Martin's on the pod now. He's incredible in this fitness space. Would you guys work together with him on that maybe? Or how do you think about the gyms? Because I think that's such a interesting model for you guys to take, and it would absolutely crush it. Like
I'd be honored to work with Brad on that, because a few conversations I've had with Brad about this health and wellness and being healthy. And, you know, when we launch a supplement line, you know, I get a lot of great advice from Brad. He really cares about this stuff. He really understands. Yeah. I mean, you look at him, like obviously, you know, like he knows what he's doing, and he's, you know, Brad's kind of guy that, you know, sometimes whenever I see him, we'll be talking about random stuff. But as soon as I bring up something that has to do with health, even myself, you know, if I say something like, "Hey, Brad, I need to lose this gut," like his ears perk up and he just immediately wants to help. It's just it's so natural to Brad.
Love to hear that. I think there's such an opportunity there with, you know, like a Gold's Gym, all these franchises. Like you guys have such an incredible audience that I think the gym model would be great. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to see that come to life. One day when it comes to life, we'll go back on this moment and be like, oh, there's the first one.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's like speaking of like launching something, right? Like, you know, we could say this is planting the seed of launching the full set gym one day, right? Like when you guys launched Happy Dad, like the whole team was pulling up everywhere, different spots. Like you guys are just so great at launching and creating that magical moment. What's your advice for someone that's launching that obviously maybe doesn't have an audience like Nelk or Full Send, but launching a product, launching a service? How do you get the maximum exposure with social? And what can we learn from you guys and how you do it so successfully?
Well, I think the biggest thing you've got to think about before anything else is to have a great product, because your audience will show up. Now, the question is, will they go back after you've left? And if you've got a great product, they will. You know, I've talked about this a number of times, and I'll still bring this up, is like Air Jordans, you know, launched early 90s. Jordan retired, 20 plus years ago. People are still buying it because they made a great product for people to go back to. Most athletes from that era, whatever they're selling, no one really cares for anymore. Now that the athlete is not active, Jordans, they still go back no matter what. You've got 12-year-old kids 15-year-old kids who were born after Jordan retired wearing Jordans. So that's why, I think before anything else, make a great product. I think that's the biggest advice I could give anyone else. All the other stuff, it's easy. People want to get out of the house and meet you. So it's not hard to have people meet up at stores or malls or wherever your product is carried. But before you even think of that, make a great product.
Yep, absolutely. I'd love to dive into this aspect of networking. For me, right, I'm 22. I got in this whole game of business entrepreneurship sort of by accident. I was almost paralyzed when I was 16 playing football, and that sort of led me down this whole path of entrepreneurship and this idea of networking, right? So I started the podcast when I'm 17, and the podcast was like that outlet for me to go meet people, to have conversations. Like over the years, like prior to social as well, how have you built an incredible network of friends and business associates, in the early days, like working with Justin Bieber and Floyd and all these guys? And how have you done that over time? Because I think there's an art to networking, and I'd love to hear from you about how you've gone about building relationships in your life.
It's hard to explain that. It's a question I get all the time. Usually I get the question like once a week somewhere, whether it's on Twitter or when I'm chatting with NFT holders. It's always a question. It's like, what's the secret to you? Knowing. And honestly, it's nothing more than just being yourself. I think I've always been just been me. Like I don't think I've really changed no matter who the person is. It doesn't matter if your name's Justin Bieber, Elon Musk, Kid Rock, whatever your name is. Like, or you're just the bar back at a restaurant that I go to. Like I just or the valet person or whatever it is. Like everyone to me, I'll treat. Like Kid Rock's a good buddy of mine, but I'll treat Kid Rock the same I'll treat the employee at the gym that I go to, that I see all the time as well. So I think that's the only answer I have. I don't have any other answer. There's no like trick. There's no nothing else. It's just been me, and I've seen it because I've seen the opposite. I've seen people just completely, people I've known, and then they, then I'll bring Steve or Kyle around and they just turn into this whole other person. I'm like, dude, who are you? Like, I don't know, so yeah, I think
that makes sense.
I think it just be me, because at the end of the day, Elon is human, Justin's human, Kid Rock's human, Steve and Kyle are human, Dana White is human, like all Mike Tyson's human. Like, they're just humans. They're just no different than me and you, really.
I love that. Solid answer. If you were to go back and give your 18, 20-year-old self advice, business, just life advice, what would that advice be and why?
I would just, I think the advice I would give that person is the same advice I give this person, is think of your health first. If you think of health first, everything else will be good, and when, these days, I'm glad that mental health is considered health, so, from, not overthinking and over worrying, meditating, just being able to like mentally like just release bad thoughts, which is not easy to do, especially if you've been beaten on over the head over so many times in your life. But if you could figure that part out and just kind of enjoy life, walk around with a smile on your face, and then also the physical shape as well, get the heart rate up, work out, cut back on the bad foods.
Yep.
I think that's the advice I would give that person, which is the same advice I give this person today. Is that
I love that. Someone I love their content, Jay Shetty. Do you follow Jay?
Yeah.
So he's awesome. I've had him on the podcast a while ago, but like seeing his partnership with Calm and like how he's really embodied that mental health aspect of his brand is super cool to see.
He really cares about that.
Yeah. It's so cool to see. Do you like use any apps or things that, like a Calm or whatever else it may be for meditation or anything, or any go-to resources that you use?
I had Calm for a little bit, and then they did this celebrity meditation stuff, and I was like, wait, I don't, like, you're actually giving me anxiety. Like, so then I just, I switched, I just find different ones on YouTube. There's like good ones on YouTube, because I have YouTube Premium, so I don't have to worry about the ads running. So I'll just find a good one on YouTube. The only bad thing is on YouTube is, sometimes I'll fall asleep and then, it'll recommend something completely different sometimes.
Just changes the vibe.
Yeah, because like that's not what I've been really watching. But, YouTube's actually pretty smart too. But because those apps, they at least stop. They stop, once you're done with that one, it doesn't keep going. So
totally.
But yeah, right now I just use YouTube. I'm looking for an app. If anyone wants to suggest any, in the comments or anything. This is going on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to, suggest some good ones I'll read the comments, and I'm looking for a good app. It's just kind of, Calm lost me. Maybe I'll go back to Calm, but but maybe. You
know what I like? So I have the Aura Ring. I'm like, it's so funny. I did an interview with The Information yesterday. They DM me on Twitter. They're like, hey, we saw you tweeted about the 8 Sleep mattress, and like we'd love to talk to you about sleep data and how you enjoy it. Do you know 8 Sleep?
No,
the mattress.
I don't even know what the Aura Ring is either.
So you don't know Aura Ring?
No.
So this is like biometric. It tracks your heart rate, your like HRV, how long you sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, all the different biometrics that you can track. And the 8 Sleep mattress, this is not an ad, everyone. This is completely organic, by the way. But I've talked to the 8 Sleep CEO a lot. It's a biometric tracking bed. So it can regulate the temperature of the bed, like down to very cool temperature, make you fall asleep faster. It wakes you up. It vibrates. Really cool product. But like talking about that like optimization, mental health aspect, I'll have to put you on. It's really cool products. Then you can actually integrate them to like optimize sleep tracking. It's really cool. But they have, I was saying that because they have on the apps like meditations and things to do before sleep when you wake up. And I genuinely do like them more than a lot of other apps I've used for sure.
Yeah.
So
I have this weird thing. I can't have too much technology around me. I used to have, I've gone through 3 Apple Watches, and just something happens. My whole body feels weird. Before the Apple Watch, I had the other one, Fitbit. Yep. I had 2 Fitbits, and there's something in there that just gave me a headache at all times.
Interesting.
Yeah, if Google searched it back then, I haven't done Google search, so maybe there's some studies now, but my last Apple Watch was like 5 years ago, and I just couldn't do it. I was always getting like a headache, and it went back to the Fitbit that I had like maybe I forgot when it was. It was maybe like 7 or 8, 9 years ago. It was before the Apple Watch came out. Then I thought maybe getting an Apple Watch, it was just a Fitbit thing, and I had the same thing. So that's why I've never even really looked at these. I want to, because I know they're good for you. I know they're, now they're. I forgot this other one. I got it as a gift, but I had to give it back. I was like, I can't wear it. It was this one of those watches.
Yep. Interesting. Wow, that's
yeah.
For you to be aware of that and like actually notice that across many different devices. I mean, it's gotta be gotta be something.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's even overthinking. Honestly, maybe I don't know.
You're a thinker, right?
Yeah, maybe it might be me overthinking and being paranoid about it. But yeah, for some reason. But even my phone can't be around me too much. Sometimes I have to put my phone away and be away from it for a little bit. Wow.
Well, a couple more questions before we wrap up here, John. Outside of work, like where do you spend your time? Like, what are I know you recently got married. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
Wedding looked incredible. Yeah, you guys did the pod on the side. It looked super fun.
No, they did the pod.
They
didn't tell me. They didn't tell me they were doing that.
Oh, no way. They just did it.
Yeah, they just did it. We were just walking by, and Renee, my wife, goes, "Is there a fucking podcast being done at our wedding?" I was like, "What?" Wait, there's a podcast, and I looked. I was like, Logan Paul was in there. I was like, "Oh shit." Kind of cool. Actually, they didn't tell you. I was like, no. And then
that's so funny.
And then we both looked. There's like a part, I forgot what the timestamp was, but it's like she like comes up to the window. You could see her, and she looks at Kyle. She's like, what the fuck? But we laughed so about it. It's funny. But at the time, it was like, because it's like weddings are so stressful. So but every advice I was given to before was like, hey, listen, this is gonna be stressful and you're gonna probably black out out of like joy and happiness, so enjoy every second. And that's what we just had this rule. But yeah, to answer your question, what I do is spend a lot of time with her. I try to, because I spend a lot of time at work, so every minute that I'm not here, I like to go home and hang out with her. We spend a lot of weekends together. If I'm not traveling, I travel maybe one weekend, maybe sometimes 2 weekends out of the month. But then, just love hanging out there. And we have a dog.
So great. Well, congrats again on that.
Thank you.
Last thing, just first off, thank you so much for coming to the pod today. But when you think about this community and the community you're building within the entire organization, how would you sum up what Full Send and what Happy Dad means to you, and just the impact and the legacy you want to leave with this brand and, the entire community that consumes your content, consumes your products, and reps the brand overall. Like, what does Full Send mean to you, and what do you really want it to mean to the world?
Well, I want, like I was talking about Jordan brand, I want, and I think it's happening right now. I want other young creators to look back and say, because we started a conversation with every creator should have their own product, but they don't know what it is. They don't understand their audience yet. They don't know how to do it. We want, and not just me, Kyle wants this, Steve wants this, Sam wants this. We want to create the blueprint for any creator to be able to do this. Build a brand, build a product. Don't use your platform properly. Of course, take those short-term checks pay the bills, because there are immediate bills. We do that sometimes too, but in the long term, like build something long term meaningful, because you are a platform. You're not just a channel. You're not just an influencer. You are a platform. So, but the question is how, where, when, who, and we want that blueprint. Like, we love when we see other creators creating something and a new brand comes out. Like, I remember when Mr. Beast, he sent us chocolates here when they first launched, and we're like, dude, go Mr. Beast. When Logan Paul does Prime, we're like, go Logan Paul. Like, when Jake Paul launches his new gambling app, we're like, dude, go Jake Paul. Like, we love that. And, and then Jake, he made this video, and he's like, this is, better is to me is like what Happy Dad is to the Nelk Boys. It's like,
that's so cool.
Like, it's perfect, because we want that. Like, I know brands are afraid of influencers. Brands are the least loyal people out there. They're always looking for the next hot thing, and you're always at the mercy of to brands. So and it kind of and one day brands are going to say, you know what, fuck it, we don't like you anymore. There's a new TikToker is out, and we're shifting this year's budget towards that person, and other people like that person on TikTok because that platform is the new thing that ABC's talking about, and it's devastating. So don't be dependent on them, and we want to be that blueprint, with everything, with all our brands, and it doesn't have to be just one brand. Mr. Beast has got his brand, multiple brands. We've got our multiple brands. Even Jake Paul's got multiple brands. He's got Better, but then he also has his boxing league, that he's an owner in.
Yep. I love that. And just to end on that, man, cheers to everything that you guys are building and what you're going to continue to build. Can't wait to see the gyms one day. And of course, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Of course. I know we've been chatting about making this happen for a while. So super fun to finally make it happen today. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the audience responds. So everyone that's listening, watching, thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast today with John. And last thing, where's the best place everyone can follow you and stay in touch with Nelk Boys, Full Send, Happy Dad, everything you got going on?
Yeah, well, Happy Dad is Happy Dad on all socials. Nelk Boys is Nelk Boys on all socials. I'm just John on all socials. I think those are the three.
Love it.
Then you guys know who my partners are and how to find them too. They're more entertaining to follow than I am personally.
Well, cool. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Of course.